Today I'm rebuilding the Cincinnati Bearcats, and they just got moved to the Big 12 alongside UCF, Houston, and BYU. I'm going to give myself 5 seasons to win it all with them, and I can only recruit players from Kentucky, Ohio, and Indiana. Just a few years ago, the Bearcats went 13-0 to make the playoffs, but Alabama got the best of them, and the Big 12 will continue to get more difficult as Colorado, Utah, Arizona, and Arizona State are all joining in 2024. The good news is I'll be using the 12-team playoff tool, but I can only play 3 regular season games a year myself, and I'll also need to complete all 6 of these challenges in a 5-year span, because if I fail to finish even just one of those, I have to give away a jersey to a random commenter. While taking a first look at this roster, you'll see a few high overall guys, but after that it drops off rapidly, and the game might say that we have no team needs besides a fullback, but it also projects us to never be championship contenders, so we have a lot to improve. There are a few 5-stars that want to come here from the jump, but unfortunately only one of them's from Ohio, Kentucky, or Indiana, so with that restriction in mind, it's going to be tough, but I found quite a few intriguing prospects, and it'll all come down to if we're able to land them or not. As for our first year in the Big 12, we're projected to finish 3rd in our division, and to avoid getting fired, I need to make sure that we get 9 wins. Our first game is against the Citadel, so if we choke this one, I would be very disappointed, and I already had to remove a lot of those original prospects that we were chasing after, but then I found Ken Griffin. This athlete has 95 speed and 90 throw power, so getting the 4-star quarterback from Kentucky is our biggest priority, and we just took a lead for him over Missouri. If we're going to land a prospect like him, though, we need to continue to impress by beating teams like Pitt, which we don't, and Emory Jones had a really rough game. Since there's already guys interested in visiting Nippert Stadium, I think I'm going to schedule them against UCF, and hopefully we'll beat our rivals Miami, Ohio going into that week, which we do. Remember, one of the 6 challenges is to have a winning record over the 5-year span, so it's very important that we win as many games as possible, and with 2 different 4-star athletes visiting, I've decided to jump into my first of 3 games. I gotta say, I'm happy to be back here in Nippert Stadium, and if you didn't know, I worked statistics for them the year that they made the playoffs. Because of that, besides Kentucky, I'd say they're my second favorite college, and we just picked up a massive 3rd and 15. That's the reason this drive stayed alive, and we're going to hand it off to Corey Kiner, who gets in. I gotta say, it's unfortunate that Emory Jones is a senior, but I've been very impressed with him, and this didn't feel like Heisman difficulty at all. We just annihilated UCF at home, and that allowed us to jump into some pretty big leads on some of these recruits, but we haven't been able to schedule Ken Griffin for a visit yet, so now that we can, we're going to put him against Texas Tech, and hopefully he'll join the one lone recruit we have in Brandon Gaddis. Since we're playing against the Red Raiders next week, though, I need to sim this one against Kansas, and we lose by 6, which is not the way that I wanted to open up Big 12 conference play. What's important, though, is we get Ken Griffin to commit, and since the weather's been so rough, it's taken a long time for anybody to score. It seems like the only way to move the ball is to pound it, so Corey Kiner's going to take the handoff, and I hope he has the speed to get the outer edge here. He is going to go backwards, and we're in a lot of trouble. Our center is not getting set. I need him to hike the ball. He had it in his hands, and that is going to be a beautiful throw. I wasn't sure anything would happen because our center was acting super weird, but it all worked out in the end. Unfortunately, with 3 minutes left, we're trailing, so I'm going to throw up a one-on-one ball to Xavier Henderson, and he burnt the corner on him. That's going to make it 17-all. It's hard to believe that that's the first time we've scored since the end of the half, but now we're going to get a defensive stop, and all we need is a field goal to win. Here on 3rd and 7, I probably should have taken that route up the middle. Emory Jones is going to scramble, though, and that was a great play from him. It's dropped and intercepted, so never mind. It was a terrible play. We've pretty much lost the game we needed to win to get Kevin Griffin to commit. Maybe we'll have a little bit of time left, but we're going to be down by 3, which isn't good, and the only thing I know to do is throw it up to Xavier Henderson. He had that one catch earlier on, and he burnt that corner again, but he dropped it. That ended up being the unluckiest thing ever. This is probably the final play of the game, and it's not even going to go the distance. I'm trying to lateral it, and yeah, nothing's going to happen. We just lost at home when we really needed to win, and that means we only landed these 2 players while Luke Walker went to Louisville. To be honest, it's probably just best if we sim for a couple of weeks, and I'm surprised that we beat both of those teams. In fact, that was enough to get David Gibson, Ken Griffin, and Joe Wheeler all to commit, so our quarterback of the future is actually coming to Cincinnati, and he has a stud wide receiver from Huntington, Indiana joining him. I can't even be upset that we're going to lose out on Chris Russell to Kentucky because they keep on gaining a lead on us, and I know it's late in the season, but I just found an 8+ gym in Tommy Gibbons. I think next year is going to be even better for the Bearcats as we've continued to improve, and we've had multiple results decided by less than a touchdown, but BYU blew us out, and whether or not we make a bowl game comes down to these last 2 matchups. Since we'll probably lose to Oklahoma, I'm going to play against Houston, and with about 2 minutes remaining, all we have to do is just run out the clock. At one point, we were up by 18, but Houston's been coming back, and now we are in a tough position because we need one more first down, and they are doing a great job on defense. It's not going to stop Emory Jones, though, and with that completion, we're bowl eligible. We even landed 78 overall athlete Derek Hartman and defensive end Antoine Perry, and then we only lost to Oklahoma by 3, so I'm feeling really good about the future. We didn't make the playoffs, but these are the 4 teams that did, and remember, next season season, it'll be expanded to 12. Our bowl matchup, though, is the Liberty Bowl, and I'm almost certain that senior Emory Jones played for the Gators at some point, so this probably felt good. It was really close, but we had that edge, and these two teams made the national championship. Let's just say I'm happy that Oklahoma is about to leave for the SEC because they are going to win it all, and I can't believe Dylan Gabriel got it done. On to the offseason, though, where Scott Satterfield's already earned a 5-year extension, and he just got hired, so that doesn't make much sense, but it's time to see who's leaving, and we have 2 freshmen transferring out. They don't think they have a chance to make a difference on this team, and I really need to convince Dante to stay. He's a 96 defensive tackle, but this is one of the only ones I can promise, and maybe he'll win another award as well, which is enough to convince him. I also got Juwan to stay as well, and that's huge because almost all of our best defensive players are going to be returning. The same is true for our top 3 receivers, including Xavier Henderson, and Corey Kiner's also a junior who rushed for over 1,000 yards. The only painful loss we're having is Emory Jones, who really wasn't the best, but somehow he did enough to get drafted, and at least we already have his replacement in Ken Griffin. I'm hoping during the offseason period I'm able to land these 3 recruits, but unfortunately we only got Brian Willis, and Miami, Ohio stole 2 different players from us. We landed the 18th best class, but that's not in the top 15, so through the first year I didn't complete any of these 6 objectives, but I did set us up nicely in convincing all of these players to come to Cincinnati. 95 speed Ken Griffin becomes an 80 overall quarterback, and David Gibson might only say he's a 72, but he is a 77 wide receiver, so our offense should be good for a while because we also have Derek Hartman here. Freshman Antoine Perry even becomes a 79 defensive tackle, and wide receiver Donovan Ollie had an incredible offseason going up 7 overalls. Now we have to take a look at what the new Big 12 will look like, and I'm kind of surprised that going into the season we're behind the ACC. This year in recruiting we have a lot of team needs as we're going to have to stack up our DB room, and it's so frustrating to recruit when I can only get players out of Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky. We have 21 seniors, so we're going to need to replace a ton of people, and I really want to start Ken Griffin, but I have to put in Evan Prater. This guy is already a senior, and he's been waiting on his turn for far too long, so as long as he helps us live up to our mid-table expectations, we can let our freshman quarterback develop, and right now, by the 5th season, the game thinks we'll finish as a top 16 team. Last year, Pitt beat us, but they're on the schedule again, and we win by 21, so I'm going to keep my faith in Evan Prater, who gets us the win at Louisville too. Starting 3-0 would be massive for us, and I don't see any reason why we'd lose to the Redhawks, but unfortunately in recruiting, we're not doing well as all 3 of these cornerbacks we are losing these battles on, and we're going to continue to lose points. It almost feels like this is one of our best chances to have a year where we make a playoff run, and going into week 7, it might be a 5-way tie, but we're sitting at the top of our division in the Big 12. It's kind of weird that the one position we need, we can't get a lead on, but then these players that are going to sit on the bench for a while at high overalls just want to come so bad. All I can really do is schedule them for a visit against West Virginia, and again, we could make the playoffs as we're already sitting as the 19th best team in the country. We just need to make sure that we continue to win, and we're playing on the road at 4-1 Arizona, so this one will have major implications to how we finish. On 3rd and 10 here in the 3rd quarter, we are going to complete it to Turner, and we're down by 8 because the offense has struggled so far. On this 4th down, we should have picked it up, but Evan Prater misses, and no wonder that in his 4 years at Cincinnati, he has never been the starter. It's hard to pull him because at this point in the season, we've done way better than we should. He's going to be able to escape pressure here and hopefully scramble in. Come on, he fumbles it out of the back of the end zone, and I am not happy with how he has performed today. We should not have lost this game. Our defense is getting thrashed right here. I don't think I'm going to be able to make the tackle with threats, and that is it. Arizona beats us, ruins our season, and I was better off just simming it. What happened last week cannot happen in this one, and that's because we're hosting 12 recruits at Nippert Stadium, so I'm giving Evan Prater one more shot, but if we lose this game, I'm going to have to start the freshman. To end the first half, I'm going for on a controversial 4th and 2, but Evan Prater's going to fake him out and truck a guy. So you know what? There's a chance that I've been a little bit too harsh on him because at the end of the day, we're still a few seasons away from being able to potentially go undefeated, and this throw is on the money. Stuff like this where he avoids the sack and then threads the needle is incredible, but with about 50 seconds left, we are only up by 3, and West Virginia has it around midfield. This 4th and 2 is going to be massive. I feel like we have everything locked up, and we forced the fumble, so we're going to win in front of all the visiting recruits, and it wasn't pretty from an offensive perspective, but I don't really care because we got Will Peterson, Jonathan Hall, and Spencer Johnson. Now, losing Brad Beck is frustrating because this guy had 88-man coverage, but I just have to hope that one of these 3 corners comes to us, and in taking a look at our final 6 games, we're going to have a brutal ending to the season. There could be a reason that we're 5-1 right now as we haven't had to play too many difficult teams, but we beat Kansas, and they're ranked 6th in the country, so that is a massive result. That alone got us John Johnson, who might be able to play corner, but his stats aren't the best, so we'll see what happens when I try to move him there. I'm just glad in the playoff rankings we're up to number 15, and the coaches poll might have us at 20, but I hope we can beat Kansas State, and we do by 23. With 4 games left in the season, we are in a 4-way tie for the top top of our division, and to help the team lock in, I got everybody a pair of Raycon's everyday earbuds which look, feel, and sound better than ever. With optimized gel tips for the perfect in-ear fit, these earbuds are so comfortable, and trust me, they will not budge when you move or use them during a workout. Raycons last for 8 hours of playtime and even have a 32-hour battery life, along with revolutionary earbud tap functions where you can easily switch tracks, take a call, or turn up the volume with a touch. By just tapping, you can automatically pause your music on your everyday earbuds and then resume it when you place it back in your ear and tap again. It also has features such as noise isolation, which allows you to be totally immersed and block out outside noise. And then there's awareness mode, which I absolutely love because I'm able to listen to music at the gym while also hearing what's going on around me. With school back in session, Raycon is having their annual back to school sale, so for a limited time only, you can get 20% off site-wide plus free shipping. Just go to buyraycon.com/board to get access to this amazing deal, and thank you to Raycon for sponsoring today's video. Now let's see if we can come out on top of this four-way tie. But over the next 3 weeks, we play all three of those teams, and I can only jump into one. We beat Iowa State, so now we're going on the road at number 4 Utah, and early on our freshman kicker can't hit from here, so we have to go for it on 4th and 5. We're going to get it to our 87 overall tight end, and I'm pretty sure he went up like 8 overalls during the offseason, so that's why he's so good. Winning this game would give us a great shot at making the college football playoffs, but unfortunately Utah is playing us very well, and I'm not sure if we're going to be able to pull off the upset. Well, you know what? We have a chance. With a minute remaining, we are down by 4, but we have the ball, and the only issue I could see us running into is we don't have any timeouts. I see a wide open Xavier Henderson, though. He needs to make sure he gets out of bounds, and now that we're inside the 35, we just need to avoid any stupid mistakes. That could have been another big gain, but Evan Prater sailed the throw, and on 3rd and 10, they have the tight end guarded, so I'm just going to have to take our dump off, but again, the pass went nowhere, so it's 4th and 10. I think we're going to have the slant, and it's going to be dropped. Come on. That was our chance to potentially be a playoff team, but we're going to lose to Jaquindon Jackson, and now we have to sim to the end of the year where we're also going to lose to Colorado. That is devastating because we're not that far out from being a top 12 team, and I think BYU beat us last year, but they're 3-8, so I was expecting us to win. It's hard to believe, but Colorado won the conference championship against Arizona, and I hate the fact that we just missed out on making the playoffs. Colorado and Utah, both from our division, ended up sneaking in, but it stinks because our bowl game is against Cal, and it seems like Evan Prater's going to go out with a win, but we don't recover it, and are you kidding me? All of these seniors are just trying to finish their career on top, but they need another stop, and on 3rd and 7, they're in 5 wide. I'm ready for something to break out. I'm using all of it, and we should have gotten an interception, but Dortch toasted us. This was so close to being one of the best seasons in school history. Now we're going to probably want to forget it. That's a beautiful throw, though, and I guess Evan Prater wants to make sure that he goes out in style because he keeps throwing dots. I'm just going to set up our freshman kicker to kick the game winner, and I'll dive for a few yards, and we lose the football. This has got to be the stupidest ending ever. Remember, our overall record matters a ton because we need to finish above 500 in this 5-year rebuild. We get the sack, and I cannot believe that this game has come to this point. Normally, I wouldn't care about a bowl, but so much has happened, and I'm just going to roll out with Evan Prater, end the game, and thank goodness we did not choke that. Evan Prater is going to go out in style, and the national championship ended up being South Carolina versus Michigan. They're both only 93 overall, so we weren't that much worse, so that gives me confidence that we can make a run in the future, but at least for now, we have to watch from home, and what a comeback story from Spencer Rattler. Unfortunately, though, we've now gotten to the point in the year where we're going to lose a ton of players, and our receiving group might not have been great, but our rushing core was, and it also stinks that Evan Prater is already gone, but his replacement Ken Griffin is ready, and with a first-round draft projection, I can't convince Dante to stay for another year. We're losing 17 different starters, so we're in for a lot of trouble, but at least 8 of those guys ended up going on to the NFL, and we're locked out from Parker Nash, but at least we're still going to get a cornerback. Fortunately for us, our recruiting class just finished inside the top 15, so that means we've completed the first objective of the video, and don't ask me how this group of guys is better than the one we had last season. It doesn't make much sense to me, but John Johnson's only a 72 overall cornerback and a 79 halfback, so he's going to have to play on offense, and using this more realistic player progression tool, I was hoping we'd have a better offseason, but as I scroll down to the bottom of these results, I'm going to start seeing players with negatives instead of positives. Ken Griffin only went up 2 as well, so I'm going to try to be optimistic, but the later we get into the season, the more we're probably going to struggle. I guess it's a good thing though that our conference is still way worse than the SEC or the Big Ten, because that means we should at least have a chance of making the playoffs this year, especially because we're starting the year at number 12. We're only an 84 overall, so I don't really understand this projection. As for recruiting, this season our biggest needs are on the defensive side of the ball, so I'm going all out when it comes to finding athletes and linebackers, and I found this 10+ Jim who started as a 70 overall in Craig Strickland. I think we'll be able to get him, but I'm just going to end up simming through like the first 4 or 5 games, and that way we can get a decent gauge for if we're actually good or if we're going to struggle. Since we're in so many close battles this early on, I think I'm just going to schedule everybody against Arizona. And going into it, we should be 3-0. If Western beats us, I would be incredibly disappointed. How did that happen? They had almost 250 more total yards than us. Willie Taggart was amazing, and Ken Griffin was atrocious. I don't know why he's only throwing the ball 16 times a game, but I'm going to switch up our offense, and hopefully it doesn't take us too long to bounce back from that result. The Wildcats might be a lot better than us on paper, but we have the home field advantage, and I'm putting all my faith in sophomore Ken Griffin, who has 95 speed. They've done a pretty good job of containing him, but that's because he's a much better runner than a passer, as that's another interception. And let me tell you, the defense is not good. We've given up a lot of points already. I am about to just start scrambling with him. That is a 21-yard gain, and why would I even worry about making a read when he can do stuff like that? It is incredible, but nobody's getting open. That went to the wrong receiver, and he's good on the ground, but that's about it. Once Arizona figured out how to shut him down there, it was all over, and that is another inaccurate throw. This team is definitely much worse than last year's, so I'm just grateful that after that performance, 3 players still committed, and I'm starting to understand how we lost to Western Kentucky by 25. I just have to hope that we take care of business at West Virginia, and we are going to lose by 21. So for the first time in years, my job security has dropped, and I've put a lot of people on visit for this BYU game, so this has to be the one where we turn it all around. Unfortunately, what I've already realized is Brady Leichenberg is in the game, which means Ken Griffin is injured, and our star quarterback is out for the season with an upper arm fracture. That's going to make it so much harder to bounce back, and I could pretty much say that it's all over from this point, but I guess there's still a chance that we could finish season 3 making a bowl game, so that's going to be our goal. As long as we can get in here, we're going to take a 7-point lead, and Joe Wheeler, who I recruited in season 1, just found the open space. We need a stop on this 4th and 5 though. I'm going to go over to the running back, and the quarterback completely faked me out, so there's a decent chance that this drive ends in a touchdown. I'm using everything. Give me that. Cox is going to come away with the football, and what a huge turnover for the Bearcats. We went on to win, and that means that 6 more players have committed, including 80 overall Craig Strickland, so I'm much happier with this team, but 4 of our final 5 matchups are against top 25 opponents, so I'm expecting that we're going to stay near the bottom of our conference, but at least we're going to take down Kansas. After that, we'd go on to lose our next 2, but we took down Utah, so we're 5-6, and of course we have no shot at winning the Big 12, but at least if we beat Colorado, we'll make another bowl game, and it's time to see what Dion has built here. This is Sanders' 3rd year as a head coach, and with a minute 41 remaining, we are down by 4. I'm going to try throw it up the seam, but since we couldn't convert, it's 4th and 16, and I'm actually going to punt the ball back to the Buffaloes because we have 3 timeouts, and that is amazing. It's bouncing all the way inside the 18. I think I made the right decision there because we know the run's coming, so we can just run commit, and we have to get a stop on 2nd down, but all the blockers line up. He's going to break free, and that is game. Maybe I didn't make the smart decision. Maybe I'm stupid, but you know what? At least we did our best, and they just continue to break free. This is embarrassing. Of course they're going to get a touchdown. The only positive we can take away from this season is on the recruiting front. We did a very good job, and there's still a chance that we win a couple of these other players, but we're trailing on pretty much all of them. It looks like Iowa State ended up winning our division in the Big 12, and TCU won the other side, but since we're not making a bowl game, we can look at season stats, and Ken Griffin was awful before he ended up getting injured. Since he struggled, that made freshman John Johnson struggle as well, and we have never had a standout receiver in my time at Cincinnati. Tyler Buckner won the Heisman at Alabama, and these are the 12 programs that made it into the playoffs. After seeing Western Kentucky made it, I'm not as upset we lost to them, and they wouldn't make the championship, but they lost to USC, who did. It's crazy that this is the Trojans' 17th game of the year, and even though they made a run to a championship, it's clear that they were just too tired. They didn't have enough time to recover, and Ohio State went 16-0 with Devin Brown. 3 years in, we're sitting at 22-16 overall, so we're on pace to have a winning record in the 5-year span, but we haven't completed any more objectives. We're not losing too many great seniors, but we are losing a transfer to Illinois, and there's no way that I'm going to be able to convince him to stay, but I guess I'll continue to lie, say 13 sacks, he's still undecided, and with one more lie, we might be able to convince him, and he is still moving on. Clearly, he knew that he wasn't good enough to put up those numbers, but we already landed his replacement in Craig Strickland, and I wish I had more points to spread around, but I can only target 2 guys, which sucks, but at least we were able to get both of them. That means for the first time, we have a recruiting class inside the top 10, and hopefully this gives us a boost to have a much better season than the last one. Our cornerback problem should be solved as most of these guys can play there, and I'm very happy with how the offseason went as I see 3 different +7 boosts to overall. Going into season 4 or 5, our first game on the schedule is going to be against Western Kentucky, and they've been bringing up Conference USA's average ranking for a while, so we need to go into this one prepared. We're not starting the season inside the top 50, so it's a chance to boost our ranking, but at least the game seems to think that next year we'll be a top 8 team. From a recruiting standpoint, we're only losing 7 seniors at the end of the year, so this recruiting class is probably going to be pretty small, but the few players we do get are going to be very good. I'm hoping that we don't don't struggle with the Hilltoppers, especially since it'll be in front of our home crowd. And on 4th and inches, I'm going to abuse the cheat code we have in Ken Griffin. I'm going to run around and he can get by these defenders with ease. He's even breaking tackles. So as long as he doesn't get injured, we should be set up to have a very good season. I'm just going to take off again. And he's literally a cheat code. The only time we struggle is when they stop the run, so we're forced to pass. And on 3rd down, that's going to be caught by Gibson. We shouldn't have got it. But number 11 on Western Kentucky had one of the worst defensive plays I've ever seen. And I'm just going to throw it on the toss to our backup running back, Derek Hartman, who got the outer edge. Beating a team that's made the playoffs twice is huge for the program. And look at John Johnson go. He has more speed than anybody else on this team, which is crazy to think about because Ken Griffin himself is insane and he's going to take this one in. It feels good to be back on the winning side of things, but our tougher matchups don't come until later on in the season, so we're going to have to simulate for at least a bit, which hasn't gone bad for us so far, but Arizona State is undefeated just like us, so I'm a little worried, and I guess I shouldn't have been. In recruiting, things are going well, but we are in a bit of a battle for Eric Mosley and Keenan McGrew, so I'm going to go ahead and schedule them for visits against Kansas State, and going into week 6, we have made it back inside the top 25. We just have to continue to win, so against Baylor, I'm crossing my fingers, and they blew us out by 31, and that makes no sense because they just lost to Middle Tennessee State. Kansas is back in realistic form though, as they're 0-4, and I'm expecting us to beat them, which we did, but that isn't enough for us to get back inside the top 25, so against West Virginia, we had to take them down, and now it's time to take on number 19 for visit week, who's lost their last 2, and not many players are even coming because all of these guys have already committed. The focus though is Keenan McGraw and Eric Mosley, who has locked us out, so I'm going to have to open the door, use the one that we have, and let's just hope that things go our way at home. It looks like we're ranked in the AP poll again, but even though Kansas State is on a losing streak, I know that they're a pretty solid team. We could lose our spot in the top 25 relatively easily, but it's so easy to run the ball when it's raining, and look at John Johnson. He just broke free. He's only like an 81 overall, but he had a really good offseason, getting up to a 94 speed, I'm pretty sure, and he's just quick. On 4th and 1, I need to trust our rushing attack. I'm going to pitch it to Spencer Johnson, and that block up there needed to be better. That's going to stop us from taking it all the way. So unfortunately, here near the end of the 3rd quarter, we're still only up by 1, and we just fumbled the ball. Thank goodness we picked it up, but there's no way we were picking up the 3rd and 28, so we have to go for the long field goal, and it's just far enough. This might be a really stupid 4th and 7 to go for, but Gibson's going to beat his corner over there. I'm going to throw it up to him, and he drops the football. If that mistake cost us the game, I'm going to be so upset. We went for all the glory, and I know the slant was open, but I wanted the touchdown. Now they're running the ball down our throats. Hopefully we can stop him from reaching the end zone, but boys, it is not looking good, and they're going to get in. We need a miracle from Ken Griffin. We have to go the length of the field in a very short amount of time, and that throw was so far behind the receiver. They're going to intercept it, and all he had to do was lead him upfield, but he did the opposite of that. Avery Johnson just gave us our 2nd loss, and our next matchup is against Iowa State, who is 6-1. Obviously, neither of these guys committed with last week's result, but I'm hoping we can shock the world at Iowa State, and it wasn't even close because our defense had an incredible performance, holding the Cyclones to just 3 points. It's good we bounced back though, because Ken Griffin got some confidence back, and we have to sim these final 3 games because we've already played in 3. Going into them, we're ranked 19th in the college football playoff poll, so if we could win all 3, we should make it back to the playoffs for the first time in a long time, but I'm worried about these final 2 matchups. Both of them are against very good teams, and we lose to Utah. Sim has not been on our side in this rebuild. We are going to go out and beat Deion Sanders though, so we're just going to have to hope that we climb the rankings during conference championship week. Because we had 3 pretty solid losses, we're sitting at number 13, and we just need someone like Michigan or Alabama to lose, and our wish was granted when the Ducks beat the Wolverines by 3. Arch Manning ended up winning the Heisman at Houston, and we made it into the playoffs as the 12th best team. It might be an uphill battle, but I'm excited to see what Ken Griffin can do, and it's kind of crazy, but he was also our leading rusher. As for receiving, he made Barry Jackson Jr. look very good, and JUCO Carl Ward came up and put up 90 tackles. Alabama's the team that beat Cincinnati the last time though, so I'm not expecting much, but I'm glad we knocked off our 2nd objective, and maybe we can pull off a massive upset. It's probably not a good sign. Jalen Milroe already has them inside the 5, but we have them on a 3rd and goal, and I'm using that corner route, but I was too slow. Approaching halftime, we have really struggled on offense. The only points we have is when our defense got a safety, and I'm going to throw this one to Jackson. That's going to be a big gain, but this 99 overall defense has stopped the run most of the day, and we can't break anything. To make matters worse, on that one play, both our halfback and our quarterback got injured, so we have to use our backups to end the half with a touchdown, which will not be easy to do. There's no way that freshman Reggie Dixon is ready for this moment, and he is not going to get the ball out in time, so I'm starting to think that we should just go for the field goal. He has a wide open receiver on the corner route though, and he floated it for too long. It is intercepted by Carpenter, and we just need to make sure that he does not take this back to the crib. This is so frustrating to go into the half down by 12. I hope they don't get a Hail Mary, and I would lose my mind if they caught that. I mean, if we're being honest, Preston had the perfect opportunity, but thank goodness he couldn't hold on. And let's just say I am very disappointed. This looks identical to what happened just 4 or 5 years ago when they played for the first time in the 4-team playoff. We're fighting now, but Ken Griffin seems like he is Desmond Ridder 2.0. We're going with the halfback screen, and John Johnson is going to get us some light. He's going to fight his way into the end zone, but we have a very long way to go, and on the onside kick, Preston is going to hold on to this one, unlike the Hail Mary. 3rd and 13. They go with the wide receiver screen, and we force a sack, but it almost feels like it is too late to get excited. I'm going to try to bomb them over the top to Gibson. He's our fastest wide receiver, and he comes down with the football. And you know what? Why not try it again? They're using the same cornerback to press him, and he got a little bit confused. We're going to score a touchdown, but all of this is happening a bit too late as we're still down by 2 possessions. We really need a lucky break right here, and that ball isn't going anywhere near where it needs to be. So we're going to get put out in the first round by the number 5 seed, but at least they didn't make the championship as they lost to Notre Dame. The Irish are the last undefeated team in the country, and Kevin Minchie has won it all. I remember playing him a couple years ago, but now he's a national champion, and hopefully that can be us next season because we have 1 year left. We're going to need to have a miraculous season to complete all of these objectives, and I think we're about to lose our best wide receiver to the NFL draft, but I'm going to do everything in my power to convince Barry Jackson Jr. to stay, and I actually believe that he could win the Blitnikoff, which is enough to do so. Almost our entire starting lineup is back, and we should land the 2 players we've been competing for, so I'm excited. We only signed 15 players, but we have the 14th best class, and yes, during offseason recruiting, we actually got Eric Mosley and Keenan McGrew. With this wide receiver room though, McGrew might not ever even see the field, and after training results, they're looking even better as Barry Jackson is a 99. Let's just say that this team should be a lot better than last season, and we're also in the 4th best conference, which should make things easier. Going into this last year, we're sitting at 31-20 all time, so a win here guarantees that over this 5-year span, we have a winning record, and we get that. With that result, there's only 3 more challenges that we need to complete, but we're projected to finish the season down at 13, so I have a long way to go if we're going to win a national championship. We also don't have anybody on the Heisman watch as of right now, but Ken Griffin has to have a good chance at winning it. He has 98 speed with 94 throw power. Luckily, the rest of the Big 12 isn't looking great, so we should be fine in conference play, but we need to get through the non-conference matchups early on. Against Boston College, we dominate again, and Ken Griffin is playing out of his mind. His 2 performances alone have gotten him into the Heisman conversation, and we're also now a top 10 team sitting down here at number 8. We play 1-1 Louisville in week 4 though, so this one could go either way. They didn't score a point, and I guess I'm underestimating this team. Up until now, Sim hasn't been on our side in this rebuild, but we're sitting inside the top 4, and number 15 Baylor's coming off a loss to number 7 Duke, but I still believe this is an important one to play. We can jump into 3 regular season games, so there's no reason to skip this one, and it took almost his entire career, but Ken Griffin is doing so much better. He's always been dominant on the ground, but now that he can sling it, it's amazing as that's a beautifully placed ball, and our defense is definitely the weak spot on this team, but they're also not terrible. On 3rd down, we're going to get a massive hit, so we're going to go into the half with an 18-point lead, and I refuse to believe that this is their defense to open up the 3rd quarter. They have a linebacker over there on one of our best receivers, and he's just going to toast him. Wheeler will take it to the house, and we're going to get an easy win over Baylor. Ken Griffin obviously dominated as well, so I'm a bit surprised that he's nowhere up here in the Heisman watch. Everything else is going well for us as we're the number 4 team in the country, but we need to have a Heisman finalist, and against Oklahoma State, we barely win. A little close for comfort there, but we're still sitting at the top of our division, and I think it's smart to sim to the end of the year where we're going to jump into the Utah game and the Colorado one. Hopefully over the course of these 4 weeks, things don't go too rough for us. We beat West Virginia, and then we smoked Kansas, so I'm feeling confident going into Kansas State where we also win. Our offense is playing Big 12 football. They've put up so many points in recent weeks, and over that 4-week span, everybody else lost that was above us, so we are the number 1 team in the country. As long as we beat Utah and Colorado, we're going to make the Big 12 championship, and Ken Griffin is right behind Sellers for the Heisman Trophy. Going into this game, we're the number 2 offense in the country, and assuming we don't fall off the face of the planet, we should be a playoff lock, but I want to make sure we get a 1st round bye, and let's see what this 98 speed can really do. Ken Griffin is going to shed 1 tackle, and he busted out there. They missed one on him. He is not going to be able to go all the way, but let me tell you, this guy is so much fun to play with, and with a 99 overall wide receiver in Barry Jackson Jr., there is no reason that we should ever struggle on offense in this game. We're going to end the first half going up 24-14, and the only thing we really struggle on still is defense. On 3rd and 7, I want to run a little bit of trickery. You've probably never seen a play quite like this in NCAA football, but it's not going to work at all, and I'm just glad that in the second half, the Utes couldn't get anything going like they did in the first. It's not like our defense is bad, but of our two units, they're certainly the weaker one, and I don't see how we're going to lose a game this season if we continue to play this well. The only two problems we're running into is Ken Griffin is still behind in the Heisman race, and Deion Sanders has gotten this Colorado team to the point where they're always competing with us. We have to win this to make the Big 12 championship, and we're going on the road to Folsom Field, so if we're not on top of it, the Buffaloes could always come out and shock us, but Ken Griffin is just so much faster. He might be the greatest quarterback we have ever had in a rebuild. He is so good, and I just wish it didn't take him until his senior year to play like this, but at least he is now. To end the first half, we should be going up 21-7, and Barry Jackson Jr. just set a school record. He's the best receiver to ever come through Cincinnati, and we're going to get an easy win over Colorado, so the undefeated season stays alive, and you won't believe it, but Ken Griffin had 7 total touchdowns. During all those years of struggle, I knew that we were building for something special, and it's finally paying off, but going into conference championship week, Ken Griffin is still trailing on the Heisman, and he's going to have a massive game against Arizona State to win the Big 12. At the moment, these are the teams that would make the college football playoffs as I'm going to scroll through the top 12, but then if you take a look at 13 through 22, there's a lot that are still hoping to get in, and I just noticed we have the #1 offense point-wise in the country. I know we play in the Big 12 against weak defenses, but you have to admit, with Ken Griffin at the helm, this offense is special, and here in the fourth quarter, we're going up 24-0 with this field goal, so I'll give props to Arizona State, but they haven't been able to move the ball on us all day, and I would have never imagined we would win the Big 12 championship 41-0. It feels great to get Cincinnati fans this result though, and now it's time to see if we can keep this level of play up in the playoffs. Unfortunately, Ken Griffin still couldn't win the Heisman Trophy, and I don't know how he lost to the Northwestern running back because he had 55 passing touchdowns and then another 7 rushing. He was literally our entire offense as he was our leading rusher again, and he made Barry Jackson Jr. the best wide receiver in college football, but he didn't win the Blitnikoff. Our center, Jonathan Harder, did win the Remington, but I feel like our team's gotten snubbed as we're now sitting at the #2 spot, and hopefully that lights a fire in this team to go out and dominate in the playoffs. Out of curiosity, I'm going to spectate all the opening round matchups, and if you want me to do that for deeper immersion in future rebuild videos, let me know. 12-seeded Missouri is going to upset NC State, so that's a big first result we're getting, and on our side of the bracket, we play the winner of this game, so I'm actually a little bit nervous because South Carolina looked very good with the #2 offense in the country. I'm not sure how either of these two Big Ten teams made it this far, but here we are, and what a brutal result for Rutgers fans who got stomped 38-0. Our last opening round matchups between these two, and it's in the middle of a blizzard, so it's setting up to be an instant classic. With 20 seconds left, Duke is going to get into field goal range, and Texas A&M did so well, but they're going to come up short against the Blue Devils, who just got another first down plus more. Their running back is fighting, and all of that effort makes this kick a gimme for Duke. That concludes all of our first round matchups, and we're going to have to take on South Carolina. There are a couple things I want to note before we jump into it though, and that's the fact that the only challenge I have left to complete is win a national championship with Cincinnati, but South Carolina quarterback Lenoris Sellers is standing in our way as this guy was one of the finalists for the Heisman with 46 passing touchdowns. There's a chance that this could turn into a shootout, so I think it's very important that we score on this first drive, and you cannot run cover 2 against us. Ken Griffin is going to have a field day with that, and now he's just going to scramble in for the touchdown, but there was a flag on the play, and thank goodness it was just offside. Here on 4th and inches, of course, we're going to have to go for it. It's later on in the game, and I'm going to be able to break free with Ken Griffin. That spin move created a ton of separation. He's down to the 5, and here in the second quarter, it looks like we're about to go up 14-0 as I'm just going to be able to scramble in, hopefully. I've always said my concerns come on the defensive side of the ball, but we're doing well, and on this 3rd and 15, we should be able to hold them to 3. If we give this up, I'd be incredibly disappointed, but Lenoris Sellers can't do a thing, and so far this game has not gone the way I thought it would. I was expecting more of a shootout on the halfback screen. They should have intercepted that, honestly. John Johnson's in space though, and he's going to break the tackle, and he's going to fight his way in. Every single thing that could have went wrong for us on that play didn't end up happening, and what an effort from him at the end to throw these guys off of him and then fall into the end zone. I am so proud at how this team is playing, and here in the 3rd quarter, it feels like this game is already over. We cannot get stopped on offense, while South Carolina couldn't ever get anything going. The turnaround from this team has been unreal, and I can't believe Lenoris Sellers played this terribly. Either way, we play the winner of this game in the semifinals, and if Oregon doesn't pick up this 4th and 6, they're most likely going to be eliminated, which is honestly what I'm rooting for because I'd much rather play against 11-3, 11-seeded Maryland, and they get the interception. That is it. The best part is even in that win, the Terrapins defense didn't do great, so we should have a field day against them, and on the other side of the bracket, 12-seeded Missouri is going to lose to LSU. That means the Tigers will be playing for a spot in the championship against the winner of this one, and Northwestern with their Heisman winning running back is able to get it done against the Blue Devils. He had a terrible game game, rushing 3 times for 13 yards. So trust me, I am not happy that Ken Griffin got snubbed, but I hope that if we can beat Maryland, we play him in the championship, and hopefully this one isn't too difficult. We've kind of just cruised through the year pounding everybody, but on 4th and 3 here, we don't get it. So that's a rough start to this game, and Maryland's actually playing us pretty well. Just like Alabama did last year, they figured out how to stop Ken Griffin's scramble, and he can sling it a lot better, but it's still not perfect. I think we're going to bomb them over the top though, and you know I had to see it. Adam Horn Jr. was naked right there, and they might try to throw us up over the top. Carter gets toasted as well right after. So the Terrapins are keeping the pressure on us, but if we could get a goal line stop here, that would be massive, and we might. It's 4th down, so it all comes down to this, and we are going to stop him short. I can't believe we were actually successful there. Now we could score to end the half, and even though we would finish it with points to end the 3rd quarter, it is tied up 21-all. I'm going to float this one up to Johnson. That's a 1st down, and you can tell that this is a real battle. We haven't been challenged like this all season. Johnson might be able to break free though. His speed is incredible, and I should honestly just be running the read option all day, but like I said, the Terrapins have a counter for it, and on 4th and 4, we're luckily going to pick it up. But for a spot in the championship, this one is way too close for comfort. John Johnson is going to avoid the defensive end there, and I've put a lot of emphasis on this drive because of how important it is, but we're also going to need to get some defensive stops. That corner route was clean, and here on 3rd and 7, they go with a halfback draw, which means they're just going to attempt the long field goal, and their kicker's going to miss it wide right. That means all we have to do is rush for a few 1st downs. That block was incredible, and you know that Ken Griffin has the speed to toast that safety. We are going to go on to the national championship, and I'm curious about who our opponent's going to be. I actually wanted to be Northwestern just so we can play the Heisman winner, but with the Wildcats missing multiple key pieces, it wasn't even close, so their undefeated season is going to end, and they didn't even give their Heisman winning running back any rushes. Apparently, he was the backup to Thomas Hunter, but he still won it, and I also can't believe the game had us ranked below Northwestern. We've cruised through this season though with pretty much every win being a blowout, so we just have to finish the job against LSU, who is a 95 overall, and I think they're the only team we've faced that's been better than us on paper this season. Barry Jackson Jr. from the start is going to get 20 though, and I was hoping he could have broke that free, but I'm sure he'll get something going at some point. I am getting pressured immediately, and I see him deep. Nobody is on him. That's a touchdown already, so I literally just predicted that, and Ken Griffin has broken Joe Burrow's record from being at LSU. On 3rd and 12, they're going to laser it up the middle, and that was almost a pick. Yancey was one of the lower overall recruits we had to get, so the fact he's even out there right now is a little bit frustrating, but I'm making plays out of the pocket, and it's a bad throw. Just like our last one, the Tigers are doing a good job of keeping it close, but I doubt they're going to expect the run on 3rd and 3, and I was wrong. I don't like that I am struggling to score on them with this amazing offense, but our defense just got a huge interception, so we need to finish this drive off. They sent the blitz, and Ken Griffin is going to get out of there. He'll go down about the 2, which is huge, because if he had any less speed than 98, he probably wouldn't have made that play. As the game goes on, LSU is starting to struggle more and more. Here on 3rd and 14, I am using that crossing route all day. Yancey's going to drop the pick, but at least we're going to get the stop either way, and it's starting to feel like we are gaining control of this game very quickly. We just need to finish this drive off with a touchdown, and I might have him over the middle. It's going to be a beautiful throw, but despite being put right where it needed to be, it was not held on to. That is very frustrating, as we could have gone up by 3 possessions. It seems like LSU is going to end the half with getting at least 3. Hopefully Mackey doesn't make it to the end zone. I'm going to try to bring him down, but they got a timeout off with 1 second left, and it's going to be 20-10. I mean, to be fair, we're doing pretty well, but I've seen a lot of 10-point leads erased so quickly in all my games playing NCAA football, so this leveling hit on 3rd and 14 from Carter is a big deal. LSU was about to get it within 3, but we have the ball now, and I know they didn't just press Joe Wheeler, the 5-star recruit who catches it. He didn't live up to the expectations I had for him, but he's still been a solid piece, and on the read option, Ken Griffin's going to toast everybody. So if LSU can't score on this drive, I would pretty much say it is all over, and they have a lot of time back there. We're going to give it up. That is not what you want to see, but I should have done a better job when it came to recruiting defensive linemen, and LSU has gotten us to a 3rd and 26 where I'd imagine that we're not going to pick it up, but I'm going to try my best, and it's intercepted. I don't want to think about the fact that we could be choking, but it does sort of feel like it a bit, because with a pretty rough first half, we're only up by 7, and we're going to need to rush for at least a few 1st downs. I can't make any mistakes when running the option. Ken Griffin takes it for a lot, but we still need him to do that at least 1 or 2 more times, and on this one, I'm going to pitch it out just in time. Horn is going to go for at least 10, and earlier on, they had an answer for this type of play, but now they can't do a thing. Ken's going to go for another 15, 20, and since we're in field goal range, there's not much that the Tigers can do. Unless something crazy happens, it'll be a 2-possession game no matter what. Ken Griffin gets the first, though, and all we have to do is take 3 knees to win it all. It really didn't seem like this was going to be possible, but I completed all 6 objectives in this video, and I'm glad that I was able to rep Cincinnati and get us this championship. championship. Also, boys, if you enjoyed this rebuild, you're going to enjoy this one even more, where I took over Penn State for 2 years and tried to win it all.